At Microsoft are delighted to announce the release of Powerproject version 16.002. In this exciting new release, our software development teams have worked hard focusing on the BIM-related aspects of our software portfolio. Hopefully you're watching this video as an existing user of Powerproject BIM, keen to hear about these new enhancements. I'll take you through each of the headlines and demonstrate them in turn. If you're not already an existing customer of Powerproject BIM, we have a host of other resources available to help you understand the benefits of 4D planning. This could be as simple as spotting problems not otherwise visible via Gantt charts, but also moving forward and analysing different methods of construction, different techniques you might want to use, different scenarios, adding in site logistics to plan the site you're working on, and better to communicate your projects to those involved in the pipeline of your programs. But let's get started by looking at some of these headline releases. And I'm going to start with this one we've called the Project Builder. In this approach, we take an automated first-pass creation of your schedule based on the information that's within your model. In effect, you open up your IFC file first, and Powerproject will iterate through that file, finding all different elements of your model and creating activities for each of those parts. You've got some options on how you do this, and clearly it's not going to create a perfect schedule for you, but as a first-pass approach to creating a schedule, it's going to allow you to focus on the important bit of being a planner and not on the laborious linking activities that we've had to attempt in the past. So let me try and show that to you now. And in this example, I've opened up a model of a retail unit. And as you can see, there are no activities yet in my Gantt chart. If I go to the schedule builder here, I can look at the model that I've got open and find all the different categories and product information that's within that model. I'm going to choose to create a hierarchy of tasks, initially based on location, then follow that up with the different IFC entity types. On the next page, I've got an option to check this hierarchy and make sure it makes sense. I want to put the foundations higher up here and then make sure the levels follow afterwards. So in effect here, I'm checking what the summary structure will be once I produce this project. I can also add code libraries to this project based on other parts of the model. I might create a code library based on the material or the trade that's been assigned to the model. I can also copy information into UDFs, that's User-Defined Fields. Again, similar things. I might pick up on an entity type or some data around the model and put that into a UDF so I can use that later on in my project plan. So if I hit the Create button here, you'll find it's gone away in the background and created one task for every element of the model. If I very quickly link these up together and do a demonstration project, you'll see that in a matter of button presses, I've produced my very first pass schedule through here, where I've got one activity linked to every part of the model. I can therefore hit play and very rapidly get to see what my project might look like by linking all of the different elements of that model into a schedule. It gives me a very quick way of checking if there's any errors in that model that I might want to throw back at the design team, and I can now focus on improving that project plan rather than having to link things up manually. Our next feature is called a cutting plane. And in this environment, we're taking a slice through the model and looking at elements inside that by stripping away parts we don't want to see at a given time. So a good example here is if I want to focus on the inside of the building, when I've got some interior work, some fit-out work to produce, and tasks relating to that at a given point. And I would otherwise not be able to look inside the model because of the surrounding curtain wall, etc. If I was working in an infrastructure project and I wanted to strip through the ground and see tunneling works, I'd also be able to do that by looking at a cutting plane. So let's take an example and hit that. Again, I've got a nice model here, and if there was work happening inside this, I wouldn't normally be able to see it. So if I open up my cutting planes and add a new cutting plane into it, I can choose somewhere on the model to start this process. That's produced this yellow arrow that I can pull in and out to demonstrate where that cutting plane might be operating. You can see I can now look inside this model and interrogate the interior of it by using that cutting plane. I've got other options with this. I can turn this yellow arrow around and sort of spin the cutting plane through to get to the angle I want to look at. I can also slant it. This means I can lie it nice and flat on my surface and therefore create a vertical slant, a vertical cut through this model that allows me then to go up and down when I pull my yellow arrow. So in this example, I can take the roof layers off this building and look through into the top areas from above. I can actually add more than one cutting plane. So if I also want to slice along the side of the building, I can do that as well. Again, by tapping on the model and choosing this yellow arrow, pulling backwards and forwards until I get my cutting plane at the angle that I want. So I can perfectly show both the top taken off this building and the front of it. Those cutting planes can be associated with a snapshot, that is a pre-saved camera angle, and the snapshots can be applied to my fly pasts and therefore my animations, so my cutting planes can be turned on and off as I play back my video. Our next feature relates to site objects. For a while now, you've been able to add temporary items into your model, extra IFC items such as a tower crane, mobile crane like the one on screen there, and show these when they're linked to tasks. In the past, if you wanted to show something in a different location, you'd have to add it into the project multiple times, and again use the tasks to show where it is at any given point. In this new release, we've created animation parks for the site object, so we can move them in any given point. This allows us to animate a logistics path or demonstrate when objects might be in different locations at different. Here I've got the forecourt now showing to my hostel building, and I want to put a lorry into this and move it around the project. I need to add that lorry as a new site object, which I can do through the same approach that I took in the past, and find my truck and give it a name so I know where it is later on. Initially, Powerproject will put that tower crane in sort of a default location. It's actually popped it way down here. I have the option now of snapping to surface when I move this lorry around, so I'm going to move it up onto this flat surface. Be careful not to tap on the side of the building, or you might find your lorry has adopted some sort of strange angles instead of lying flat on the surface. But now I've got it at the starting point, I can create a movement to show that lorry driving towards the entrance to the hospital. Here I have the option for movements. These are pretty intuitive. I add an action for that lorry, and I'm happy with the starting location, so I'm not going to edit that at this point. But I do want to create an end to its logistics path. Same options appear to allow me to navigate and move this lorry around. So I've now set where the lorry will finish next to the hospital. If I preview that, you can simply see that lorry moving forwards. But I do need to make sure that I control when that happens. So I want to choose a task and add that into this pane. So when the task that I've highlighted in the background occurs, that lorry movement will happen in the playback. I now want to spin that lorry round and show it driving down the side of the building. And for that, I need what's called a subsequent action. A subsequent action means that it's going to start from the position we've just finished it and then move forwards from that. So again, I'm happy with the starting position, but I need to choose an end to it. In this situation, I want to rotate it and then just move it a little bit further forwards. Same applies, I need to link that to an activity. And I'm going to add a third one into this as well, a third subsequent action. And on this occasion, I am going to edit the starting position. I actually want to have it fully rotated by the time this starts. But then I can set the end location as being further on in my project, round the corner perhaps, such as that. And I can link that to my third then dummy activity. So in theory, when we run this, we'll get action number 1. We'll then get action number 2, that movement around the corner. And then we'll get action number 3 occurring. So let's see if I've done that successfully by hitting play on my ribbon. And this is a common issue. At no point did I actually tell Powerproject that this lorry needs to be displayed. So I actually do need to link it to an activity in the first place so that my lorry does appear on the screen. Now when I run that animation, you'll see it successfully drives up to the hospital, turns the corner, and disappears back off again. So these logistics paths can be added in for any of the site objects that you can add through that algorithm and demonstrate them moving around your project. The next feature here relates to the extraction of data from the IFC and populating that into a user-defined field within Powerproject. By being able to take information from the model and adding it into user-defined fields, that data becomes accessible, such as in the spreadsheet, in filters, but also in formula and in the BI export you can create from Powerproject. This means that all that rich data that's held within the model can be used further within Powerproject, but also exported into other systems. A feature here called Select Similar IFC Products will help you to find other parts of the model that match the criteria you're looking at with maybe one particular element. So in a model, I might have 100 pile caps, and I found one of them. And if I right-click Select Similar Products, I can choose to find all of the other pile caps and then link those up seamlessly. So I'm going to do that in my retail outfit. Here's one particular pile cap. If I right-click and choose Select Similar Products that have the same IFC type, you should see all of the other pile caps highlighted in yellow as well, which I can then add to a new activity on my Gantt chart. When you link up your model using ITC Property Searches, you set up criteria that search your model to make sure it matches certain criteria and allow that to be linked to a task. By examining that ITC Property Search, you might be able to find information around the model that you don't want visible to other individuals in the process, such as your client or subcontractor. An ITC Property Selection relates purely to the GUID, the unique ID code that really doesn't carry much information other than being a unique number. So in this option, you can choose to transfer the data from a product search into a selection. So all of the elements that match the search, that included data you don't want visible, that can be hidden by saying, keep hold of those items, but now just link via the GUIDs. So when I do share this project, I've been able to protect my intellectual property. Because of all the extra options we've added into Powerproject BIM, we've also had to simplify and rearrange some of the menu system. This just makes more sense. There's more things you can do in Powerproject BIM now. So we've recategorized items and grouped common activities together so they're easier to find on both the ribbon and on the right-click contextual messages. This is a really cool feature. When I'm producing a video, in the past, I've been able to have week numbering showing on the video, but no real representation of the timeline that people are familiar with in a Gantt chart. Now, when I choose to export a video, I can include this timeline in a position along the bottom and show a line sliding across it to represent the time now. I'm going to demonstrate this in the video we've already exported from Powerproject. And you should see now that when I run this animation, I've got that timeline information along the bottom and a line telling me where we are in the project plan. Within this video, you'll also see we've put in some logistic paths. You've got those blue arrows showing on screen. And earlier, you should have also seen some floating words on the screen. So this video shows several of the new features all at once, including a tower crane rotating around as we run the animation. Also, when running a simulation, we've improved the options that are available to you. Previously, when using an IFC comparison window to show one model against another version, you may have that linked to your baseline to show the difference in dates. We now have improved the options that allow you to declutter that window based on other criteria. So, for example, alongside one version of your model, you may have that exact same model shown again, but with a filter applied, perhaps based on a trade or showing just critical tasks. This allows you to improve the value of that output when you're sharing it with other people. Finally, within the playback, we've added some extra options. So, for example, you can now fast forward, fast reverse, slow forward, and slow reverse using the button showing on the screen here. Hopefully that summarizes some of the key features that are now available in 16002. There are many more, but these are the ones that we think will hopefully excite our existing users of Powerproject BIM. Please do visit our website or contact us directly if you want more information on how to use these features to produce better 4D projects.